Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Can I do the pranam mantras today?
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Mataji. Can I do the pranam mantras today?
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, you are audible.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible? Am I audible? Oh. Okay, somebody please unmute and tell me, no?
Mataji, you are.
Yes,
Are you
Mataji,
able to
you
hear
are
me?
audible.
Okay.
I'm not able to listen.
Hare Krishna, Vaishnavi Mataji, are you able to listen now?
Mataji, are you able to hear now?
Yes. Actually, sorry, my system volume is low. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I do the pranam mantras today, Mataji?
Yes. Vaishnavi, you can share, ma. I'll make you co-host.
Yes, Mataji. Mataji, tomorrow can I recite the pranam mantras?
Okay.
Okay, Mataji. Mataji, 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. Mataji, shall I mute or stay unmuted?
Stay unmuted. You can share the pranam mantras.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Mataji, can I start?
Vaishnav Kerekar, yes, you can start.
Am I audible correctly?
Yes.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपाय कदा मह्यं ददान्ति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष्य शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण माता जी.
Hare Krishna. Today our Narayan and Haripad, they are not joining. So bear with me. I am your, so I'm going to sing the Vaishnav Bhajan today.
Mataji, can you sing the Madhurashtakam?
I need to prepare.
Okay, Mataji.
So I am singing the one all.
Mataji, you can sing the Madhurashtakam tomorrow.
No. Actually, Narayan and Haripad, they will join tomorrow. Maybe next week I can. Okay.
Okay, Mataji.
If any one of you knows, you can volunteer to sing. I don't mind.
Mataji, is it there in that Mangalati PDF?
Just a minute. Yeah. I'm going to sing that Yashomati Nandana only. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay. Is it visible to you people?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
यशोमती नंदना ब्रजभरो नागरा गोकुल रंजन काना यशोमती नंदना ब्रजभरो नागरा गोकुल रंजन काना गोपीपरनधना मदना मनोहरा गोपीपरनधना मदन मनोहरा कालिया दमन विधाना कालिया दमन विधाना यशोमती नंदना ब्रजबरुनागरा गोकुल रंजना काना अमला अमला हरिनाम अमिय विलासा अमला हरिनाम अमिय विलासा विपिन पुरंदरा नवीन नगर बुरा विपिन पुरंदरा नवीन नगर बुरा वंशी बदन सुवासा वंशी बदन सुवासा यशोमती नंदना ब्रजवरुणागर गोकुल रंजन काना ब्रजजन पालना सुरकुलनाशना नंदगोधना रखवाला नंदगोधना रखवाला गोविंद माधव नवनीत तस्करा गोविंद माधव नवनीत तस्करा सुंदरानंद गोपाला सुंदरानंद गोपाला यशोमती नंदना ब्रजभरुनागरा गोकुल रंजन काना यमुना तटचरा गोपी बसन हरा यमुना तटचरा गोपी बसन हरा रास रसिका कृपा मोया रास रसिका कृपा मोया श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नटवरा श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नटवरा भक्ति विनोदाश्राया भक्ति विनोदाश्राया यशोमती नंदना ब्रजवरुणागर गोकुल रंजना काना हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा we'll continue
Hare Krishna Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण yes who wanted to read first
Mataji, how many shlokas do we have in total in 14th chapter?
27
Okay.
yeah somebody please start
Mataji, am I properly audible?
yes you're audible
Yes. May I?
yes
रजस्तमश्चाभिभूय सत्वं भवति भारतः राजः सत्वं तमश्चैव तमः सत्वं रजस्तथा. Translation: Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Mataji, you need to scroll. No, Mataji, it's not updated on my screen. Maybe my internet still have some issues.
Somebody else, please take the
Yeah,
lead.
Mataji, I'll going to continue. O son of Bharata, sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance. And at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. Purport. When the mode of passion is prominent, the modes of goodness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. The prominence of some certain modes of nature is manifested in one dealing, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters, but if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance, or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although these are three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness and by transcending the mode of goodness, and he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God by the manifestation of particular activities. It can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So only one mode of material nature can be prominent. That's what is being told. When you are in a mode of goodness, the passion and ignorance will automatically will take a backseat. Similarly, if you are there in a mode of a passion, goodness and ignorance will take a backseat. If you are there in a mode of ignorance, the passion and goodness will take a backseat. So the details of that will come in the subsequent slokas. Yes, next.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'll read.
Yes.
सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्याद् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमिति उत. Translation: the manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Purport: there are 9 gates in the body: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. When every gate is illuminated by the symptoms of goodness, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position, and one can hear things in the right position, and one can taste things in the right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate, there is development of the symptoms of happiness, and that is the position of goodness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, the material manifestation of mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body, that is the 9 gates which is been described in the purport, are illuminated by the knowledge. The person become totally pure, a good soul, and everything is recepted. You got pure gold, pure diamonds, pure, some amount of purification standards are there for every element or every metal, something like this. Similarly, for human standards, as per, described in the Vedic literature. So once you're there in the mode of a goodness, each and every element in your body will be in the receptive to take the knowledge of the God. Next.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Lobha pravrittir arambha karmanam ashambhaspraha rajasya itani jayante vivriddhe bharatsrava. Translation: O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. But one in the mode of passion is never satisfied with the position he has already acquired. He hankers to increase his position. If he wants to construct a residential house, he tries his best to have a palatial house, as if he would be able to reside in that house eternally, and he develops a great hankering for sense gratification. There is no end of sense gratification. He always wants to remain with his family and in his house and to continue the process of sense gratification. There is no cessation of this. All these symptoms should be understood as characteristic of the mode of passion. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. In the previous verse, what we have discussed yesterday, the passion, the same thing is been explained here again. The people who are there in the mode of a passion are attached to the family and all the belongings of the house and the family members. So, and there is no end to that. People keep longing on even more and more, and there is no cessation for this. So, whenever we say, suppose in your daily practice, in your day-to-day life, whenever you encounter people who are in their conversations and in the behavior, and when you observe people also who are having such symptoms, then you can come to a conclusion, or you can have an analysis that yes, these people are there in the mode of a passion. Okay, Hare Krishna. Next, who wanted to read this?
प्रकाशो पर्वस्तः स परमादो मोह इव स तमसे तानि जयते विवृद्धि कुरु नंदना. Translation: when there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. Purport: when there is no illumination, knowledge is absent. One in the mode of ignorance does not work by a regulative principle. He wants to act willingly for no purpose, even though he was the capacity to work. He makes no endeavor. This is called illusion. Although consciousness is going on, life is inactive. There are the symptoms of one in the mode of ignorance. Hare Krishna Mata.
Hare Krishna. So when there is darkness, there is no light. I can give you a simple example of this. Is it or not? So darkness, you can't move. You don't know what's in and around, and some illusion in the dark. Even seeing a rope, you will think it may be snake, or some amount of all nonsensical things will go when you're in the dark. So and when you come across such people in your day-to-day life, so this is what Lord Krishna is saying to Arjuna, that these are the different set of people. So how to identify when you come across in your day-to-day life? That's what. So not only to Arjuna, Lord is saying to all of us in his form. So we have to analyze whenever you're interacting with the other person, whether he's there in a mode of a goodness, whether he's there in a mode of a passion, or whether he's there in a mode of a ignorance. This is the first and foremost step you people have to take a note of it. Then you should proceed further. Okay, Hare Krishna. Next.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
यदा सत्त्वे प्रवृद्धे तु प्रलयं याति देहभृत् तदोत्तमविदां लोकान् अमलान् प्रतिपद्यते. Translation: when one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. But one in goodness attains higher planetary systems like Brahmaloka or Janaloka, and there enjoys godly happiness. The word Amalan is significant. It means free from the modes of passion and ignorance. There are impurities in the material world, but the mode of goodness is the purest form of existence in the material world. There are different kinds of planets for different kinds of living entities. Those who die in the mode of goodness are elevated to the planets where great sages and great devotees live. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. This is in general for all the people who are there in the mode of a goodness. They will reach the higher planets like Brahmaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Swarloka, and all those things. But what does the devotee who is in the Krishna consciousness want? Somebody please answer. Does he want
Goloka.
does he wanted to go to the higher planets, or ultimate he wanted to go to Goloka?
He wants to go to Goloka.
Yeah, nice. Hare Krishna. Next, who wanted to read?
Mataji, can I?
Yes.
प्रलयं गत्वा कर्मसङ्गीषु जायते तथा प्रलीनस्तमसि मूढयोनिषु जायते. Translation: when one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities, and when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Mataji, can you scroll?
Yes, it is already scrolled.
I can't see the purport. Okay, I can see it now. Purport: some people have the impression that when the soul reaches the platform of human life, it never goes down again. This is incorrect. According to this verse, if one develops the mode of ignorance, after his death, he is degraded to an animal form of life. From there, one has to again elevate himself by an evolutionary process to come again to the human form of life. Therefore, those who are actually serious about human life should take to the mode of goodness and in good association transcend the modes and become situated in Krishna consciousness. This is the aim of human life. Otherwise, there is no guarantee that human being will again attain the human status. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, this verse clearly says that people who are there in the mode of a passion, if they die, they are not going to come back to the human life again. Okay, they will be degraded and to an animal form of a life. And we are not sure that he may come back to the human status. So the only thing when you got a human body is to realize that knowing about the Supreme Personality of the Godhead is the ultimate thing, and you have to associate in a good mode of material nature and take a regular practice to know the Lord and progress spiritually by chanting the holy name of the Lord and reading the scriptures and following the four regulative principles. Next.
I need help in this one.
May I, Mataji?
Yes, Vaishnav is there to help you, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
कर्मणा
Karmana
सुकृतस्याहु
sukatasyahu
सात्विकं निर्मलं फलं
satvikam nirmala phalam
रज रजसस्तु फलं
rajasastu phalam
दुःखं
duggam
अज्ञानं तमसा फलं.
tadmanam tanmas phalam. Translation: the result of pious action is pure and it is said to be in the mode of goodness, but action done in a mode of passion result in misery, and action performed in a mode of ignorance result in foolishness. Purport: the result of the pious activity in the mode of goodness is pure. Therefore, the sages who are free from all illusion are situated in happiness, but activities in a mode of passion are simply miserable. Any activity for material happiness is bound to be defeated. If, for example, one wants to have a skyscraper, so much human misery has to be undergone before a big skyscraper can be built. The fancier has to take much trouble to earn a mass of wealth, and those who are slaving to construct the building have to render physical toil. The miseries are there. Thus, Bhagavad Gita says that in any activity performed under the spell of the mode of passion, there is definitely great misery. There may be a little so called mental happiness. I have this house or this money, but is not actual happiness. As far as the mode of ignorance is concerned, the performer is without knowledge and therefore all his activities result in present misery, and afterwards he will go on towards animal life. Animal life is always miserable. Although under the spell of the illusory energy Maya, the animals do not understand it. Slaughtering poor animal is also due to the mode of ignorance. The animal killer do not know that in the future and the animal will have a body suitable to kill them. That is the law of nature. In human society, if one kills an animal, has to be hanged. That is a law of the state.
Man has to be.
Sorry, Mataji.
If one kills a man, he has to be hanged.
If one kills a man, he has to be hanged. That is a law of state. Because of ignorance, People do not perceive that there is a complete state controlled by the Supreme Lord. Every living creature is a son of the Supreme Lord, and he does not tolerate even an ant being killed. One has to pay for it. So indulge in animal killing for the taste of the tongue is the grossest kind of ignorance. A human being has no kind to kill animals because God has supplied so many nice things. If one indulges in meat eating anyway, is to be understand that he is acting in ignorance and is making his future very dark. Of all kinds, of all animal killing, the killing of cows is most vicious because the cow gives us the kind of pleasure by supplying milk. Cow slaughter is an act of gross type of ignorance. In the Vedic literature, Rig Veda 9.4 to 6.4, the words Goba
Gobihi Pranita Matsaram.
Gobe Prite Manasaram indicate that one who being fully satisfied by milk is desirous of killing the cows is in the grossest ignorance. This is also a prayer in the Vedic literature. These states Namo Brahmaya Devaya Go Brahma Hitika Jagadit Krishnaya Govinda Namo Nama. So my Lord, you are the well-wisher of the cow and the Brahma, and you are the well-wisher of the entire human society and world. Vishnu Puran 1.19.65. The purport is that special mention is given in the prayer for the protection of the cows and in the Brahmins. So, and the Brahmins are the symbol of spiritual educations, and the cow are the symbol of the most valuable food. These two living creatures, the Brahmins and the cow, must be given all protection. That is real advancement of civilization. In modern human society, spiritual knowledge is neglected and the cow killing is encouraged. It is to be understood that human society is advancing in the wrong direction and it's clearing the path to its own contamination. A civilization which guides a citizen to become animal in their next lives is certainly not a human civilization. The present human civilization is, of course, grossly mixed by the modes of passion and ignorance. It is a very dangerous age, and all nations should take care of to provide the easiest process, Krishna consciousness, to save humanity from the greatest danger. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, this verse explain about the mode of a passion and ignorance. People who are there in the mode of a passion, they may have a temporary happiness as this is my house and money and these are my belongings and something like that. Whatever they have attachment for the material world, they need to take a lot of physical toil for all those things, but which is not required because at the end we all have to leave everything whatever we have acquired in our life. Coming to the mode of ignorance with reference to the animal killing, again we are breaking the life cycle of that animal and the karma you have to pay back because Lord Krishna don't want even ant to be killed. So by engaging in this slaughtering of the poor animals, we are inculcating a law, a sin, and which is totally not acceptable. With reference to the cows, especially cow gives us the milk which help across all the age group for the survival, and it provides us energy by drinking the milk and all. So slaughtering of the cow is a gross type of ignorance one can do. And anybody who's indulged in such a thing is said to be in the mode of a gross ignorance. And yeah, anybody who is associated, what do you say, encouraging such things and all, definitely they are going to be born as in an animal kingdom in the next life. So present human civilization is all, it's a Kali Yuga, and many chaotic situations are there, and most of the people are grossly misled by the mode of a passion and ignorance, and we are in a very very dangerous age. And all the nations of the world should take a step forward to provide the easiest process of Krishna consciousness and save the humanity from the great danger. Otherwise, everybody is in a great, what do you say, nobody can save the world. So we are in such a dangerous situation. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, may I recite the shloka?
Yes.
Satvat sanjayate gnanam rajaso loba eva cha pramadamoha tamaso bhavato gnanameva cha Translation: from the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness develop foolishness, madness, and illusion. Purport: since the present civilization is not very congenial to all living entities, Krishna consciousness is recommended. Through Krishna consciousness, society will develop the mode of goodness. When the mode of goodness is developed, people will see things as they are. In the mode of ignorance, people are just like animals and cannot see things clearly. In the mode of ignorance, for example, they do not see that by killing one animal, they're taking the chance of being killed by the same animal in next life. Because people have no education and action knowledge, they become irresponsible. To stop this irresponsibility, education for developing the mode of goodness of people is general, must be there. When they are actually educated in the mode of goodness, they will become sober in full knowledge of things as they are. Then people will be happy and prosperous. Even if the majority of people aren't happy and prosperous, if a certain uh, percentage of the population develops Krishna consciousness and becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then there is the possibility for peace and prosperity all over the world. Otherwise, if the world is devoted to the modes of passion and ignorance, there can be no peace or prosperity. In the mode of passion, people become greedy and their hankering and ignorance. There can be no peace or prosperity. In the mode of passion, people become one can see that even if one has enough money and adequate arrangements for sense gratification, there is neither happiness nor peaceful mind. That is not possible because one is situated in the mode of passion. If one wants happiness at all, his money will not help him. He has to elevate himself to the mode of goodness by practicing the Krishna consciousness. When one is engaged in the mode of passion, not only is he mentally unhappy, but his profession and occupation will also be very troublesome. He has to devise so many plans and schemes to acquire enough money to maintain his status quo. This is all miserable. In the mode of ignorance, people become mad. Being distressed by the circumstances, they take shelter of intoxication and thus they sink further into ignorance. Their future in life is very dark. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. See, unless you are there in a mode of a goodness, why? Because people who are there in a mode of goodness, they can read Bhagwat Gita, they can chant 16 rounds, they know what is good and bad. Then at least, what do you say, a healthy person, I think I can give an example of a perfect swimmer, a person who knows a perfect swimming, he can help the other person who is submerged in an ocean or a sea or a river or a lake. Okay, so that is said to be in the mode of a goodness. Say, suppose a person who is there in a mode of a passion, he is self-inculcated and he is all self-selfer. He wanted only, his interest is only around himself, so he only wanted to save himself and his family members. So they are not of any use to the society. And third one is the people who are there in a mode of a passion. As we have discussed in a previous work, versus if people who are there in a mode of a passion, the other two things take a backseat, the goodness and the ignorance. Say, suppose if people are there in the mode of ignorance, the other two things take a backseat, and these two people who are there in a mode of a passion, they are not at all helpful to others. A healthy person can have a healthy society. People who are there in a mode of a passion and ignorance, healthy isn't mentally healthy, they are because they are not happy people, so they cannot spread happiness or the consciousness among the other people. So such people's future is very, very dark. So the only thing by which we can save ourselves is to be in a Krishna consciousness, so that we'll always be in the mode of a goodness. Next.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes.
Urdham gachanti sattvastha
You're not audible, Prabhuji.
मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसः जघन्यगुणवृत्तिः. Hare Krishna Mataji, am I audible? ऊर्ध्वं गच्छन्ति सत्त्वस्था मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसः जघन्यगुणवृत्तिस्था अधो गच्छन्ति तामसः. Translation: those who situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Purport: In this verse, the results of action in the three modes of nature are more
Your voice is breaking in between. Can somebody please take a lead in this?
explicitly set forth planets
Mataji,
where
can
everyone
I
is
read
highly
that?
elevated. According to the degree of development of the mode of goodness, the living entity can be transferred to various planets in this system. The highest planet in the Satyaloka or Brahmaloka, where the prime person of this universe, Lord Brahma, resides. We have seen already that we can hardly calculate the wondrous condition of life in Brahmaloka, but the highest condition of life, the mode of goodness, can bring us to this. The mode of passion is mixed goodness and ignorance. A person is not always pure, but even if he should be purely in the mode of passion, he will simply remain on this earth as a king or a rich man. But because there are mixtures, one can also go down. People on this earth in the mode of passion and passion
Mataji, can I read?
Yeah, continue then.
or ignorance cannot possibly approach it. Also the chance of becoming mad in the next life. The lowest quality, the mode of ignorance, is described here as abominable. The result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. It is the lowest quality in material nature. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life: birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to this abominable condition. The word tamasa is very significant here. Tamasa indicate those who stay continuously in the mode of ignorance without rising to a higher mode. Their future is very dark. There is an opportunity for men in the mode of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Rupam, you didn't give up. You continued reading. Very nice. God bless you. Yeah, so this purport explains like people who are there in a mode of goodness, definitely they'll go to the higher planet. But people who have a mixed, like somewhere between goodness and ignorance, in between, they are called as passion, and they may remain as a rich king or a rich man or something like that, but they will be in the bhuloka only, and by any means they cannot go to higher planets. And and there is also chance of becoming mad in the next life. The lowest quality, that is the mode of ignorance, again is been described here as abominable. So the result is very developing ignorance is very, very risky. This is the lowest quality of material nature, and beneath the human level there are around 8 million species of life, like birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. So everybody will take the birth among these people according to the mode of ignorance. So so we are so fortunate enough to get the human life, is it or not? So people are brought down to these abominable conditions, and they will take among the birth among these 84 lakh species. So the word tamasa is very, very significant here. Tamasa indicates those who stay continuous in the mode of ignorance without rising to the higher mode. They don't want to go above the tamasic modes, and the future of such people is very, very dark. So, whatever said and done, whatever mode you are there, if you are there in a mode of a goodness, that is well and good, it is easy because you already have taken the right path. But for the people who are there in the mode of ignorance as well as a passion, there is a chance for them to come to elevated to a mode of a goodness. And the system is the Krishna consciousness. So, one just take this opportunity and continue, don't try to continue in the lower modes. So, this is what is a society you can give the message to the society when you interact with anybody in your day-to-day life. You identify which mode in are they in and what are the what do you say untoward effects or the results of being in the mode of a passion and ignorance. If you can explain them, that is well and good. And at the same time, you have to also highlight what is the advantages of being in a mode of a goodness and all. And similarly, you can always suggest to be in a Krishna conscious. That is the only way by which we can get elevated to the higher planets as well as to the ultimately being in a Krishna consciousness, we can go to the Goloka. Okay, Hare Krishna. That's all for today. Tomorrow we'll continue with the rest of the sloka.
Yes, Mataji.
Where we are yesterday?
Yesterday we were
In the 8th chapter, Mataji.
8th we have completed. I think Yashoda, Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna. Is it or not?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Please, somebody please volunteer to read.
Mataji, can I read?
Mataji,
Yes,
may I?
you can start. First,
Okay, Mataji, I'll start. Yashoda mother binds Lord Krishna. While Mother Yashoda was allowing Krishna to drink her breast milk, she was forced to stop because she saw the milk pan boiling over on the oven. The maid servants being engaged in other business, she stopped allowing Krishna to drink from her breast and immediately attended to the overflowing milk pan. Krishna became very angry because his mother's behavior and devised a means of breaking the pots of yogurt. Because he created this disturbance, Mother Yashoda decided to bind him. These incidents are described in this chapter. One day, the maid servant being engaged in other work, Mother Yashoda was churning the yogurt into butter herself, and in the meantime, Krishna came and requested to allow him to suck her breast milk. Of course, Mother Yashoda immediately allowed him to do so. But then she saw the hot milk on the oven was boiling over, and therefore she immediately stopped allowing Krishna to drink the milk from her breast and went to stop the milk on the oven from overflowing. Krishna, however, having been interrupted in his business of sucking the breast, was very angry. He took a piece of stone, broke the churning pot, and entered a room where he began to eat the freshly churned butter. When Mother Yashoda, after attending to the overflowing milk, returned and saw the pot broken, she could understand that this was the work of Krishna, and therefore she went to search for him. When she entered the room, she saw Krishna standing on the ul- ulukhala, a large mortar for grinding spices. Having turned the mortar upside down, he was stealing butter hanging from a swing and was distributing the butter to the monkeys. As soon as Krishna saw his mother had come, he immediately began to run away, and Mother Yashoda began to follow him. After going some distance, Mother Yashoda was able to catch Krishna, who, because of his offense, was crying. Mother Yashoda, of course, threatened to punish Krishna if he acted that way again, and she decided to bind him with a rope. Unfortunately, when the time came to knot the rope with which she was wanted to bind Krishna was short by a distance equal to the width of two fingers. When she made the rope longer and by adding another rope, she again saw that it was short by two fingers. Again and again she tried, and again she found the rope too short by two fingers. Thus, She became very tired, and Krishna, seeing his affectionate mother so tired, allowed himself to be bound. Now, being compassionate, he did not show her his ultimate potency. After Mother Yashoda bound Krishna, and because became engaged in other household affairs, Krishna observed two Yamala Arjuna trees, which were actually Nalakuvera and Manigriva, two sons of Kuver who had been condemned by Narada Muni to become trees. Krishna, by his mercy, now began to proceed towards the trees to fulfill the desire of Narada Muni. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, very naughty Krishna, is it or not? When mother had not allowed him to drink the breast milk, he simply troubled her, irritated her by breaking the pots and feeding the monkeys and all, and any mother will get angry upon such mischievous activities. Similarly, Yashoda Maya. So, what she did is she tried to bind him to a motor and she left him like that, and everything is a Lord's Leela. So, what Leela is associated here, we will see in the next chapter.
Mataji, may I recite the next chapter?
Yes. Yes.
Mataji, can I read? This chapter describes how Krishna broke the twin Arjuna trees, from which Nalakuvara and Manigriva, the sons of Kuvera, came out. Nalakuvara and Manigriva were great devotees of Lord Shiva, but because of material opulence, they became so extravagant and senseless that one day they were enjoying with naked girls in a lake and shamelessly walking here and there. Suddenly, Narada Muni passed by, but they were so maddened by their wealth and false prestige that even though they saw Narada Muni present, they remained naked and were not even ashamed. In other words, because of opulence and false prestige, they lost their sense of common decency. Of course, it is the nature of the material qualities that when one becomes very much opulent in terms of wealth and prestigious position, one loses one's sense of etiquette and does not care about anyone, even a sage like Narada Muni. For such bewildered person, Ahankara Vimudatma, who especially deride devotees, the proper punishment is to be again stuck with poverty. The Vedic rules and regulation prescribe how to control the false sense of prestige by the practice of yama, niyama, and so on. Tapasa, brahmacharya, samena cha, damena cha. A poor man can be convinced very easily that the prestigious of an opulent position in this material world is temporary, but a rich man cannot. Therefore, Narada Muni set an example by cursing these two persons, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, to become dull and unconscious like trees. This was a fit punishment. But because Krishna is always merciful, even though they were punished, they were fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Therefore, the punishment given by Vaishnavas is not at all punishment, rather, it is another kind of mercy. By the cause of Devarasi, Nalukuvara and Manikriva became twin Arjuna trees and remained in the courtyard of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaja, waiting for the opportunity to see Krishna directly. Lord Krishna, by the desire of his devotees, uprooted these Yamala and Arjuna trees. And when Nalukuvara and Manigriva were thus delivered by Krishna after 100 years of the Devas, their old consciousness revived. And they offered Krishna prayers suitable to be offered by demigods. Having thus gotten the opportunity to see Krishna face to face, they understood how merciful Narada Muni was. And therefore they expressed their indebtedness to him and thanked him. Then, after circumambulating the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna departed for their respective abodes. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So, what are those two trees which are there in the backyard of Nanda Maharaj?
Yamala and Arjuna.
Arjuna. So, they are nothing but the sons of Kuvera, Nalakuvara and Manigriva. Okay, and they have been cursed by Narad Muni for their shameful, ignorant activities, and they remain as trees. Just now we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita chapter that people who are there in a mode of ignorance, they will take birth, or they have been cursed actually, so that automatically they'll take the form of a trees for about 100 years. So after being hit by the mortar to which Lord Krishna was tied, they'll be relieved of their the tree life, and they'll be thankful to Narada for the arrangement he made, so that they are relieved by Lord Krishna and all, and they will circle ambulate Krishna and they'll depart for the respective abodes. So is it or not? Every activity of Krishna has got certain message to pass on. Okay. Yes, Gita, you can read now.
Yes, Mataji. The childhood pastime of Krishna. This chapter describes how the inhabitants of Gokula left Gokula and went to Vrindavana, and how Krishna killed Bakasura and Bakasura. When the Yamala Arjuna trees fell, they made a tremendous sound like that of falling thunderbolt. Being surprised, Krishna's father Nanda and the other elderly inhabitants of Gokula went to the spot where they saw the fallen trees and Krishna standing between them, bound to the ulukula, the wooden mortar. They could find no cause for the trees having fallen and Krishna being there. They thought this might be the work of some other asura who had met Krishna on his spot, and they inquired from the playmates of Krishna how the whole incident had taken place. The children properly described how everything had happened, but the elderly person could not believe the story. Some of them, however, thought that it might be true, since they had already seen many wonderful incidents in connection with Krishna. Anyway, Nanda Maharaja immediately released Krishna from the roof. In this way, Krishna at every day and every moment displayed wonderful incidents to increase the parental affection of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, who thus felt both surprise and joy. The breaking of the Yamala Arjunas was one of these wonderful pastimes. One day, a fruit vendor approached Nanda Maharaja's house, and Krishna gathered some food grains with a little palm and went to the vendor to exchange the grains for fruits. On the way, almost all uh, almost all the grains fell from his palm, only one or two grains remaining, but the fruit vendors, out of full affection, accepted these grains in exchange for as much fruit as Krishna would take. As soon as she did this, her basket became filled with gold and jewels. Thereafter, all the elderly Gopas decided to leave Gokula because they saw that in Gokula there was always some disturbance. They decided to go to Vrindavana, Brajadhama, and the next day they all departed. In Vrindavana, both Krishna and Balaram, after finishing their childhood pastime, began to take charge of the calves and to send them to the pasturing ground, Gokarna. During this time, a demon named Vatasura entered among the calves and was killed, and another Asura in the shape of a big duck was also killed. The playmates of Krishna narrated all these stories to their mother. Their mothers could not believe their children, Krishna's playmates, but because of full affection, they enjoyed the narration of Krishna's activity. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. After the Yamala Arjuna trees, that is the sons of Kubera and all, another incident in one fruit basket lady, she is, after seeing Krishna, she is so mesmerized with his personality and all, she was keep on giving the little boy, he was holding like this and all. So she has emptied the basket and in exchange for the fruit, what Krishna has given her is the basket is filled with the golden jewels that she has recognized when she went home. Okay, that is the great mercy of Lord Krishna. And
Mataji.
in continuation, when both Krishna and Balaram, after finishing their childhood system, they began to take charge of the calves and send them to the grounds, for grazing and all. And during this time, demon called Vatsasura has entered among the calves and was killed, and another asura was in the shape of a big duck, is also killed. So the mother could not believe the stories what the children are telling, but they have enjoyed with a lot of affection. Yes, ma, please. Hare Krishna. Yes, please tell. Hare Krishna. You are asking something. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mataji, was Balaram the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj?
Rohini Mataji.
Oh,
Rohini
okay.
Mataji and Nanda Maharaj.
Okay, Mataji, correct. Thank you.
Okay. So two demons. Apart from that, they are also been killed. Okay. Yeah, you wanted to continue one more story?
Yes, Mataji.
Killing of demon Aghasura. Okay. Come on. Somebody.
Diary.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Half
Okay,
story
Mataji.
I'll going to read, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji, you can divide. One can read one paragraph, other can read another paragraph.
Okay, Mataji. This chapter describes in detail Krishna's pastime of killing. Okay. One day, Krishna wanted to enjoy a picnic lunch within the forest, and therefore he went out early into the forest with the other cowherd boys, accompanied by their respective groups of cubs. While they were enjoying their picnic, Aghasura, the younger brother of Putana and Bakasura, appeared there, designing to kill Krishna and his companions. The demon who had been sent by Kamsa assumed the form of python, expanding himself to a length of 8 miles and the height of a mountain, his mouth seeming to extend from the surface of earth to the heavenly planets. Having assumed this feature, Aghasura lay on the road. Krishna's friends and the cowherd boys thought that the demon's form was one of the beautiful spots of Vrindavana. Thus, they wanted to enter within the mouth of this gigantic python. The gigantic figure of the python became a subject for their sporting pleasure, and they began to laugh, confident that even if these figures were dangerous, Krishna was there to protect them. In this way, they proceeded toward the mouth of the gigantic figure.
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
knew everything about Aghasura, and therefore he wanted to forbid his friends to enter the demon mouth. But in the meantime, all the cowherd boys, along with their group of calves, entered the mouth of the gigantic figure. Krishna was awaiting outside, and Aghasura was waiting for Krishna, thinking that as soon as Krishna entered, he would close his mouth so that everyone will die. So while waiting for Krishna, he refrained from swelling the boys. In the meantime, Krishna was thinking of how to save the boys and kill Agasura, and thus he entered the mouth of the gigantic Asura. And when he was within the demon mouth, although along with his friend, he expanded his body such an extent that the Asura suffocated and died. After the Krishna, by casting his nectarine glance upon his friends, brought them back to life. And with pleasure, they all came out unhurt. Thus, Krishna encouraged all the demigods, and they expressed their pleasure and happiness. For a crooked, sinful person, there is no scope for Sajjva Mukti or for becoming one with the influence of Krishna. But because the Supreme Personality of Godhead entered the body of Agasura, by his touch, this demon got the opportunity to merge into the existence of the Brahman and influence and thus attain Sajjva Mukti. When this pastime was performed, Krishna was only 5 years old. 1 year later, he was 6 years old and he stepped into the Poganda age. This pastime was disclosed to the inhabitants of Viraja. Pariksh- Parikshit Maharaj inquired, why is it that the pastime was disclosed only after 1 year, and yet the inhabitants of Raja thought that it had been performed that every day? With this question, the 12th chapter ends. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So Python named Agasura, he is in the length of 8 miles and a height of a mountain, and it looked like some beautiful play area for the cowherd boys. And Krishna strains everybody is interested in going there. Krishna know that he is a demon and all, but he tried his level best to stop all these people, but everything in vain, and everybody went to his mouth. And at last, Krishna has to enter, and Agasura is waiting for Krishna to enter his mouth. The moment he entered his mouth, he thought he will close his mouth and he's going to kill Krishna. But he's such a beautiful personality of the Godhead by the touch of Krishna, and he has expanded so much. Ultimately, he has to leave his material body, and by his touch, he got liberated. Agasura got liberated, and then all the cowherd boys came out unhurt. So all these pastimes is when Krishna was just 5 year old, and after that, all these pastimes were discussed in the Vrindavana. Hare Krishna. Yeah, this comes as two. We have to read 13 and 14. Yeah, please, somebody continue.
Mataji, may I?
Mataji, can I?
Yes, Vaishnavi.
Okay, Mataji. The stealing of boys and calves by Brahma. This chapter describes Lord Brahma's attempt to take away the calves and cowherd boys, and it also describes the bewilderment of Lord Brahma and finally the clearance of his illusion. Although the incident concerning Aghasura has been performed 1 year before, when the cowherd boys were 5 years old, when they were 6 years old, they said it happened today. What happened was this: after killing Aghasura, Krishna, along with his associates, the cowherd boys, went for a picnic within the forest. The calf, being allured by green grass, gradually went far away, and therefore Krishna's associates became a little agitated and wanted to bring back the calves. Krishna, however, encouraged the boys by saying, "You take your tiffin without being agitated. I shall go find the calves." And thus the Lord departed. Then, just to examine the potency of Krishna, Lord Brahma took away all the calves and cowherd boys and kept them in a secluded place. When Krishna was unable to find the calf and boys, he could understand that this was a trick performed by Brahma. Then, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, in order to please Lord Brahma as well as his own associates and their mothers, expanded himself to become the calves and boys, exactly as they were before. In this way, he discovered another pastime. A special feature of this pastime was that the mothers of the cowherd boys thus became more attached to their respective sons, and the cows became more attached to their calves. After nearly a year, Baladeva observed that all the cowherd boys and calves were expansion of Krishna. Thus he inquired from Krishna and was informed of what had happened. When one full year was past, Brahma returned and saw that Krishna was still engaged as usual with his friends and the calves and cows. Then Krishna exhibited all the calves and cowherd boys as four-armed form of Narayana. Brahma could then understand Krishna's potency and he was astonished by the pastimes of Krishna. His worshipable Lord Krishna, however, bestowed his causeless mercy upon Brahma and released him from illusion. Thus Brahma began to offer prayers to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, some other Mataji she wanted to recite. You can read next, Ma.
Yes, Mataji. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Which one? Brahma prayers to Lord Krishna, no?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Brahma's chapter 14, Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna. This chapter describes the prayers Brahma offered to Lord Krishna, who is also known as Nandanandana. For his satisfaction, Brahma first praised beautiful and then declared that his original identity of sweetness is even more difficult to comprehend than his opulence. Only by devotional process of hearing and chanting transcendental sounds received from Vedic authorities can one realize the personality of Godhead. It is fruitless to try to realize this through process outside the scope of Vedic authority. The mystery of the personality of Godhead, who is the reservoir of unlimited spiritual qualities, is inconceivable. It is even more difficult to understand than the impersonal supreme. Thus, only by the mercy of God can one understand his glories. Finally, realizing this, Brahma repeatedly condemned his own actions and recognized that Lord Sri Krishna, the ultimate shelter of the universe, is Brahma's own father, the original Narayana. In this way, Brahma begged the Lord's forgiveness. Brahma then glorified the
Somebody please take a lead.
Yeah, Mataji. Brahma then glorified the inconceivable opulence of the personality of Godhead and described the ways in which Brahma and Shiva differ from Lord Vishnu. The reason of the Supreme Lord appearance in various species of demigods, animals, and so on. The eternal nature of the pastime of the pastime of the personality of Godhead and the temporality of the material world. By knowing the Supreme Personality in truth, the individual spirit soul can achieve liberation from bondage. Naturally, however, both liberation and bondage are unreal. For it is only for the living entirety condition outlook that is bondage and liberation are produced. Thinking the personal form of Lord Krishna illusory, fools rejects his lotus feet and look elsewhere to find the supreme self. But the futility to their search is the obvious proof of their foolishness. There is simply no way to understand the truth of the personality of Godhead without his mercy. Having established the conclusion, Lord Brahma analyzed the great good fortune of the residents of Raja and then personally prayed to be born there even a blade of grass, a bush of creeper. Indeed, the homes of the residents of the Vrindavan are not prisons of material existence, but rather abodes imbued even by the Janas and Yogis. On the other hand, any home without a connection of Lord Krishna, in fact, a prison cell of material existence. Finally, Brahma offered his whole self at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and praising him again and again, congratulated him and took his leave. Lord Krishna then gathered the animals Brahma stole and led them to a place on the Yamna's bank where the cowherd boys had been taking lunch. The same frat who had been present before was sitting there now. By the power of Krishna illusionary energy, they were not at all aware of what had happened. Thus, when Krishna arrived with their calves, the boys told him, "You have returned so quickly, very good. As long as you were gone, we couldn't take even a morsel of food, so come and eat." Laughing at the words of the coward boys, Lord Krishna began taking his meal in their company. While eating, Krishna pointed out to his young friends the skin of the python, and the boys thought Krishna had just not killed this terrible snake. Indeed, later they relate to the residents of Vrindavan the incident of Krishna killing the Aga demon. In this way, the coward boys describe pastimes that Lord Krishna had performed in his Bale age 1 to 5, even though his Pagand age 6 to 10 had begun. Sukadeva Goswami concludes this chapter by explaining how the gopis loved Lord Krishna even more than they loved their own sons.
Hare Krishna. Can somebody explain this story if you have understood? Hare Krishna.
Mataji, the story is about killing of Aghasura, and then uh, coming to Brahma's story, that he was just like thinking that how much potential is there in Krishna. So he was just testing it in the illusion of Maya. So like he just hired those coward boys and the calves, and then saw Krishna expanding his potencies in the cowherd boys and calves, and the mothers got attached to the sons more than before. Even the cows were more attached to the calves. And later, after 1 year, Brahma saw that all the expansions were turning into four-handed Narayana form. So he came to know that Krishna was actual supreme personality of Godhead, and he just came in. He just prayed to the lotus feet of the Lord and glorified his pastimes.
So later, because of those, everything in Vrindavan is under Krishna's mercy and Krishna's what is the shelter. So a house where you don't have the Krishna's blessings is said to be a prison of material riches, is it or not? So later, Brahma will realize his mistake. He'll circle Ambalate Krishna and he will leave to his world. Hare Krishna. Very nice, I think, no? How is Bhagavatam story reading? Are you enjoying?
Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Yes,
Bhag-
Mataji.
Bhagavad Gita is little bit dry, you know. It's all about practical reality, how you deal with a material world, day-to-day activities and all. Is it or not?
Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Bhagavatam is a pastimes of Krishna. So everything is,
Mataji.
yeah.
It's my
You can read Bhagavatam stories are very sweet. You can start reading from vedabase.io. Try to start to read from the first chapter onwards, first canto. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll conclude for today.
yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah, who is going to read Narsimhati for today?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Deepak, continue.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladaladaine. Hiranyakashi Purvaksha. Silatankanakhalaya. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato narsimha. Bahir narsimha hriday narsimha. Narasimha madhyam saranam prapade. Tav kar kamal vare. Nakham adbhuta stringam. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanubhringam. केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे, जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव, जय नरसिंहदेव, जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज, जय प्रहलाद, जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद, जय जय प्रभुपाद। हरे कृष्ण माता जी।
हरे कृष्ण। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Thank you, co-host and participant, for your active participation. See you all tomorrow at 8 p.m. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण।